Carolina Rizzotto.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of No Ducks Given, the podcast where we talk openly and honestly about the emotional roller coaster that is life, because vulnerability is a superpower, not a weakness. I'm back in New York. It's been like a week since I've arrived from Brazil. So I went for coffee with my friend Seth, my good friend Seth, aka Amigo Gringo. He has his platform online where he teaches Brazilians about American culture and vice versa. It's really interesting. And we were meeting out for coffee in the East Village. And we just choose like a random coffee shop because we were actually walking for a while. We walked for like 40 blocks until we got to the East Village. And then we were just like, oh, let's just choose a little spot here. So we went to 787. It's a great little coffee chain that they have in New York. And I kind of just start overhearing this conversation next to me. And it's these like young people who are talking about traveling, and then they start talking about Brazil. And of course, I completely meddled into their own conversation. I was like, do you need tips about Brazil? Because I'm Brazilian. I just said it straight up. And then we end up talking for like an hour. Me, Seth, and these other three strangers. Two of them actually work in media as well. And one of them is a producer of a podcast. And I was like, man, I'm about to start a podcast. Give me some tips, So that was cool. And then we exchanged information and went our separate ways. This is how you network. You pay attention to your surroundings, and then you see opportunities to connect with people. And that's exactly what I did in this situation. Networking is something that sometimes might not come super naturally to you, but then at some point, you're going to just start developing this skill, and then boom, you're a natural. So today I want to talk about the power of networking because it's something that you should be applying on your everyday at all times. If you want to expand in life and professionally, networking is a part of it. You can't escape it. It's a tool that can be used, of course, to get work, but also to make friends and to make real connection. I think I'm starting to get to that place where I feel really confident with networking. I know exactly like what I should say, in what tone. I know for how long to keep the conversation going. And I'm super excited to engage in this conversation with you because there's a lot of discomfort behind networking. And I can say that the first time that I started doing it, oh my God, it was dreadful. Just think of it this way. I was, 18. I had just moved to New York. And I needed to make money, desperately needed to make money. I was already, getting through college. I had a scholarship and a job at my university, but I knew that I wanted to work in media or with video or something like that. There's nobody in my family that's like in media who can like really advise me much on it. And because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do professionally, I was like not sure what I was looking for either. Usually, I think the first step is get a resume together. When you're building your resume, it's a really important moment for you because it allows you to kind of figure out like where your skills are at. And it's a way for you to reflect as well on like what you want to do. What are your intentions for yourself professionally? Resumes can be so boring, but they're also an important part of like self-discovery. It all goes back to self-discovery around here. You guys better get used to it. So once you have like your ideas a bit clear of like your skills and what you're looking for, then what I would recommend doing, especially if you're like very new to a city, this is really important, is you start reaching out to the network that you currently have. Your family and friends are a network, and they're people who know other people. And that's kind of like how the chain begins. So what I would do is reach out to the people I already know, even if it's only your family and friends, and tell them, hey, just checking in. I'm interested in this kind of opportunity. If you know of anything, or if you know anybody that you could connect me with, that would be great. Hope you're doing well. Just be super polite about it and be straight up about your intention. People are not going to know that you want something unless you tell them. So this is your opportunity to do it. That's actually how I got one of my first jobs, in New York. I actually just mentioned to my dad, who doesn't even work as a journalist. He has like some involvement with it, but he doesn't work as a journalist. But he knew that I had interest in working a bit in that field and learning more about filming and storytelling. And he was able to connect me with a reporter who ended up giving me one of my biggest gigs like ever, I think. It was huge. I was 18 and I started filming and producing for national Brazilian television, but in New York City. So that was a crazy experience. And it was from my dad, like my dad helped me out there. That was awesome. It was an amazing opportunity. Something that did play to my advantage though in that situation was that I was young. I was really hardworking and ambitious. I already had experience, like a couple years of experience with cameras. And also I was a Brazilian living in New York who works in media. I'm already the exception. And I was pretty cheap. So all of these things together, they really help, of course. So you might surprise yourself with the network that you already have. And it might be more powerful than you even imagine. And that's how people succeed. It's by helping each other. And to me, that was one really big opportunity that I had. And that was helped through a family member. Another thing that you can do is actually look for online communities within your field. So, for example, in New York and in LA and in many other cities in the US, there are groups called Filmmakers in New York or Videographers in or Video Editors in. There's just so many groups. Like on Facebook, I think Eventbrite also has some communities. I actually found this small community at the time of people in media in New York. What was cool about this community, though, is that it was meant for really young students, right? College students that were looking for internships and opportunities like that. And then eventually there was an opportunity where we visited a talk show. It's a talk show that doesn't even exist anymore. It was taken over by our dearest Trevor Noah. And I've been to so many live tapings. It's actually a really fun thing to do. It's a great way to meet people and to understand the production world. So, hot tip for you. I was, watching this talk show and it was cool, whatever. But at the end of it, I talked to their HR person and I knew that they were looking for interns for the new season. And I was really, really, really interested because at the time I was kind of obsessed with talk shows and learning about everything and how it works. I've always been obsessed about understanding the entire process so I can be a better team leader for my own projects. I definitely can admit that has paid off so far. So I was able to apply, I was interviewed, and I got the job. But then something happened, and this is just a side note, but I did not intern there at the end of it. I got the job, but then the show ended before it started. I think it just had bad ratings. And so I got interviewed for another internship with MTV as an intern for post-production, which basically is just like video editing, by the way, to keep it simple for those of you who don't work in media. So by putting myself out there and looking for these communities, I was able to get a job at MTV. I mean, that's pretty cool. Doesn't it sound cool? It was pretty cool. I have to be honest. It was actually a pretty cool experience. I was going to say, oh, it's not as cool as it sounds, but that's a lie. It was actually pretty awesome. One of the members from Black Eyed Peas performed at work once during lunch. I don't know what the hell was happening. These people are funny. MTV is a fun company. They're owned by Viacom, which was one of the biggest media companies in the world, which also owns like Nickelodeon and a bunch of other companies. And I learned a lot about their media structure as well, like how things work. And I also learned about who actually makes the content that we're watching, because sometimes we think, oh, MTV makes MTV content. Not really. There's like a bunch of these other small companies that are making content for MTV. That's another networking tip for you. Like, what you see is not necessarily what's happening. So you see the brand MTV and you think, oh, they're the ones that are making all this original content, so I want to work for them so I can make original content. But actually, behind MTV, there's a bunch of other smaller companies that they hire that are making all of this content. So you can actually reach out to them directly. You can probably find their information in their credits. So this is just like a little hack. Like, I guess you can apply this kind of hack to anything. It's just like try to go to the source of who or what is doing what you want to do. It might surprise you. And at the time, it was 2016, and it got me even more excited because I learned about more opportunities that I could have. I was like, well, if it's not MTV, there's all of these other companies, that I could work for. And honestly, that's what always has gotten me really excited about living in the US and living somewhere like New York, In Brazil, if you grow up saying you want to work in media, all you really got is like one really big company, which is like the biggest goal of all. And otherwise, it's like they're all really cool too, but there's just not that much opportunity. But for me as a creative, I always thought that being there would be very limiting because I wanted to be able to do whatever and achieve whatever and not feel constrained to specific companies. So I really love the freelancer business model that the US has and supports. It's quite amazing. Now, when I talk about networking, sure, like there's the aspect of I want this kind of opportunity from you, sure, but it's like, what are you offering back? What value are you bringing to them? And keep in mind that it's not always just about you. Networking is an exchange. So it's like, maybe you're meeting someone who doesn't even do what you want to do. Maybe, I don't know, you're a journalist and you're meeting a civil engineer. I don't even know what these people do. I'm just throwing words out there. You don't know who that civil engineer knows. Let's start there. They might know someone in media who they can connect you to. Or maybe you know someone who you could connect the civil engineer with. Maybe they're unemployed and you know this other engineer. They can get together and start engineering. Yo, wouldn't that be amazing? Guys, I know nothing about engineering. Pass through my craziness. It's okay. Let's get through it. But don't only try to connect and network with people who can give you something. Sometimes, yes, you will meet someone in an event and they will be able to give you an amazing job opportunity. But think that sometimes you're going to meet someone and you're going to be able to give them a great opportunity. Let it be because you have something, a project that you imagine them on, or maybe there's someone that you could connect them with. And what you give is what you get. So it's very important to think of networking as a giving experience as well. It's not just taking. I worked, for example, with music videos for several years. I know many musicians, extremely talented musicians. I even actually, fun fact, I had a music video that I did in like a day with 2 days notice that got featured on Rolling Stone. And I didn't even know that was going to happen. But that was really cool. But I am well connected in the music industry. And then late last year, I met a friend. He's now a friend, but he was a stranger at the time. And I remember that he started talking about music videos and he showed me some of his work. And I was like, well, I don't do music videos anymore. Not that I don't do them in general. It's just not something that I pursue. I do record music videos sometimes, but it's not my priority. But I was talking to him and I was like, maybe I can connect him to the, music producer that I used to work for a lot in LA. Like maybe he would be interested in that. And so it feels like a really gratifying moment when you can give back that way. Something about networking, though, is that you never really know when things are gonna happen. Like, you can meet someone today and only really connect with them in 3 years. Like, you don't know how that person is gonna be valuable to you and vice versa in the long term. So it's good for you to just take every connection as something valuable. So give everybody the time of day. When you're talking to someone, you're networking with someone, the truth is you don't know who you're talking to today. You don't know who they're going to become in a few years. And you could become even business partners one day and have no idea. So don't take anybody for granted, because imagine if people were taking you for granted all the time and you still don't have a lot of experience. That's really annoying. Now, as you're meeting people, it's very important to have the culture of following up. And a lot of people forget to do that. They meet someone, they have a chat, and they don't get their contact information, for example. That's really basic. That's networking 101. You meet someone, you get their contact information. Next day, or maybe even the same day, follow up. Be like, hey, this is blah, blah, blah. It was really nice meeting you at this event. We'll love to grab coffee to discuss this. How is this day? Boom, send it over. Anybody that you feel like you actually have a connection with and that could be valuable in some way, you should follow up with. And that's not going to be everybody, by the way. Sometimes I talk to like 10 people at an event and there's one that I feel like is valuable. Value in networking is not only what you can offer each other, but it's also like, is this a genuinely decent person? Because if someone sucks, if someone's rude and you see that, why do you want to network with them? Like, why? It doesn't matter how powerful they are. You probably don't want to have that kind of person in your circle, because in many ways, your network represents you. It represents who you are, which is why I'm so careful about introducing people. Like, even like recommending for jobs, I am so careful, because when I'm recommending someone, it's my reputation on the line. So if you meet someone that's really powerful and they suck, think again. You can give it a try. Like, if there's like a bigger reason why you think you should network with this person, sure, but just know that wherever they are, they're probably attracting more of that crap. So just something to keep in mind when networking with jerks. But the real value that I see networking, like the kind of people that I actually want to follow up with, are the ones who I actually have a connection with, like people that I get along with, people that I'm like, I would like to have that energy around me. That's really important. So those are the people that you should follow up with. It needs to be that, professional compatibility, sure, but also just like, hey, we like each other. The conversation flowed. This was nice. We can communicate well. If you have to force it too much, it's just not going to work. At least that has been my experience. So make sure to follow up with that person, and to meet up with them. And very few people actually follow up. So you want to engage in that momentum. If you wait for a week to text the person, they might forget who you are altogether. I know I would. I'm terrible with faces. There are people that sometimes I meet 4 or 5 times and I still don't remember them. It's actually an awful problem. It's really bad. I need to figure this out. So follow up, meet for coffee, not drinks. Coffee, not drinks. Trust me. And try to figure out like, what points do I want to hit here? What opportunities could I be interested in? Or what can I offer them? These are things that you should think about before. And you should already know something about them before meeting up with them. You can say, oh, I looked at your work. I really like this, this, and that. Like, this was really impressive. Or I really loved how you talked about this on this article you wrote. Show that you care and that you're paying attention and give them the space to speak. I think the best way for you to find out like what connection you have with that person is just by listening. Ask them questions. And then eventually they're going to say something that you're going to connect with, hopefully. And then you can be like, boom, connection. And then you're like, oh, I have this in common. Or, oh, I also worked with that person. How was your experience? So then you have a bond. You have something you share. But if you're going to network with someone and follow up and meet with them for coffee, like, don't just disappear forever. Like, you might want to stay on their mind if you think there's value in that connection. So, make the effort. You got to show up every now and then. The power of following up is really important. It's very valuable. So, 3 months, 6 months, whatever, check in, make sure that you're still on their minds. Especially as a freelancer, you have to do that a lot. Maybe somebody you meet today will have like the greatest opportunity of your life in 2 years. You just don't know. It's just, you're not 2 years ahead yet. But at least that's something that happened to me, for example. I remember there was someone that I met, someone very powerful, in 2015. And he lived in LA. But every time that he was in New York, we would meet up for coffee. And I would make sure that sometimes I would check in and be like, hey, any plans to come to New York? I've been working on these things. Would love to catch up. Years later, I know that I was following up with him and I was looking for work. And eventually, that call, which was just a checking in call, became a job offer, and a really big one. And I was like, holy crap. If I hadn't kept that connection for so many years, to keep it simple, I wouldn't have moved to LA. That wouldn't have happened. So, damn, maybe I shouldn't have kept that connection. Sorry, guys, I have some beef with LA. It's personal. I have nothing against it, just some trauma. Hey, somebody call my therapist. Finally, I think it's so important for you to network often, because introducing yourself, starting a conversation with a stranger, navigating all these things, it takes practice. And it's good for you to practice with people who are not going to be giving you that big break you're looking for, whatever that is, because you want to make mistakes with those people. So then when you meet the right person, you know what to say, you know how to pitch yourself, you know what you want and your value and what you're looking for. The trial and error process of networking is so important, so you can screw up with the right people and get it right with the right people, Let's say you end up in an elevator, literally the classic elevator pitch thing. You end up in an elevator with like a super important person and you want to introduce yourself and make an impression. You're not going to know what to do if you've never networked before. You're going to be frozen. But if you networked consistently and you've learned through that process, you're going to have all these skills and you're going to be prepared for the right opportunity. It's the classic saying, that preparation meets opportunity. So, go out there, go network, go be embarrassed, go be uncomfortable doing it, because it really is. Till this day, it's still uncomfortable for me to network, which is why sometimes I just need to completely isolate myself at home, to be honest, because I get overwhelmed by socializing. Oh my God, like I really, really do. Like I didn't when I was a teenager, maybe because there were no stakes involved. But now, like I get burned out from it. Like I don't want to be using all my energy all the time with people. So I've been needing to isolate a lot more. God, but it's important, that's just me ranting, but it's important for you to network and to push yourself that way, because that's how you will succeed. And especially if you want to be a freelancer, or start your own business, you have to get out there right now. Like, what are you waiting for? And there's no right age to network, by the way. You should start right now. Every day is a networking opportunity, believe it or not. You don't have to be at an event to be networking. You can be at a coffee shop and you're networking and you don't even know. And those are usually the best ones, honestly. When you just start talking to someone because you're genuinely interested in them, and then there's a really cool conversation, then it's like, oh wait, like you do the same thing I do, or something similar, like let's connect, let's help each other. Those are the best ones. And that's kind of why I love living in New York. This was our episode about networking. Oh my God, I feel like we talked so much, and there's so much that we can cover about this. I mean, if you guys have more questions about it, let me know. If you want me to get more specific about working as a freelancer, how to get jobs that way, all these things. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Follow me on social media, check out my YouTube channel if you haven't. I don't know how you guys found me. And please support this podcast by giving it a follow, and writing it an awesome review. Share this podcast with your friends who need a little, getting out of their comfort zone. That's what we do around here. We're uncomfortable and we go out there and we do it and we get better and we get stronger. Anyway, I don't know, guys. Life is uncomfortable. Anyway, so might as well make something out of it, right? Learn something, make some money. I don't know, guys. That's it for the day. I'm Carolina Rizzotto. It was such a pleasure. I'll see you on social. I'll see you next week. God bless. And let's give more no ducks together.
Quack.